The thunderous crash of a woman's bag hitting the sidewalk caught everyone's attention, but only Parker Zimmerman stepped forward when three men surrounded her outside Miller's grocery. He hadn't planned on being a hero that Tuesday afternoon. He'd simply wanted to buy his 6-year-old daughter Emma some ice cream after her ballet class. "Hey, back off," Parker called out, instinctively placing Emma behind him as he approached the scene. The woman, tall, with copper-brown hair tied in a messy bun, was attempting to retrieve her scattered belongings while three men in their 20s blocked her path, laughing. "Mind your own business, man," the tallest one sneered. "We're just having a conversation with the lady." "Doesn't look like she wants to talk to you," Parker replied, stepping closer. Though he was tired from working double shifts at the construction site, his broad shoulders and determined expression made him look imposing enough. "Move along." Emma clutched the back of her father's worn jacket, peering around him with wide eyes. "It's fine, really," the woman said softly, though her trembling hands betrayed her nervousness as she gathered her things. Parker assessed the situation quickly. 3 against 1 weren't great odds, but he'd grown up in rough neighborhoods and knew how to handle himself. More importantly, these were the lessons he wanted to teach Emma: stand up for others, especially when they're vulnerable. "Emma, stay right here," he instructed his daughter, positioning her safely by the store's entrance before approaching the group. The three men seemed to waver as Parker came closer. At 32, he wasn't as young as them, but years of physical labor had hardened him. His hands were calloused, his forearms strong from lifting and carrying. "The lady asked you to leave her alone, so leave." The moment stretched tense and electric before the ringleader spat on the ground and motioned to his friends. "Whatever. She's not worth it anyway." As they slouched away, Parker knelt to help gather the woman's belongings: a sleek tablet, an expensive-looking planner, and various cosmetics that had spilled from her designer bag. Only then did he notice the quality of her clothes: simple but clearly expensive. "Thank you," she said, meeting his eyes for the first time. Hers were a striking hazel flecked with gold. "You didn't have to do that." "Anyone would have," Parker replied, though they both knew that wasn't true. Several people had walked past without intervening. "I'm Penelope," she said, extending her hand. "Penelope Richmond, Parker Zimmerman." Her hand was soft against his calloused palm. "And that's my daughter, Emma." Emma approached cautiously, her ballet slippers peeking out from under her coat. "Are you okay, miss? Those men were mean." Penelope's face softened as she crouched to Emma's level. "I'm fine now, thanks to you and your brave dad. We were getting ice cream," Emma announced proudly. "Dad promised because I did my pirouette right today." "A pirouette." "That's impressive," Penelope smiled, and Parker noticed a dimple appearing in her left cheek. "Would you like to join us?" The words left Parker's mouth before he could reconsider. "For ice cream, I mean, if you're not busy." Surprise flickered across Penelope's face, followed by something that looked like genuine pleasure. "I'd like that. I could use something sweet after all that." The ice cream shop was only a block away, a small, family-owned place Parker couldn't really afford, but he splurged on Emma's ballet days. As they walked, Emma skipped ahead, occasionally spinning in impromptu dance moves. "She's wonderful," Penelope commented. "How old?" 6 going on 16, Parker laughed. "Already has opinions about everything." "And her mother?" Penelope asked cautiously. Parker's expression flickered briefly. "Not in the picture, left when Emma was 2. I'm sorry, don't be, we're doing fine." He didn't mention the second job he'd taken on to cover Emma's ballet lessons, or the tiny apartment they shared where he slept on the pull-out couch so she could have the bedroom. At the ice cream shop, Emma ordered rainbow sherbet with extra sprinkles. Parker chose vanilla, and Penelope surprised them by selecting the same. "Vanilla's underrated," she said with a smile. "It's simple but reliable." When Parker reached for his wallet, Penelope shook her head. "Please let me. It's the least I can do." He wanted to refuse. Pride was sometimes all he had, but something in her expression stopped him. This wasn't pity, it was gratitude. "All right, but next time's on me," he said, then immediately felt foolish. There wouldn't be a next time. Women like her, polished, sophisticated, didn't normally cross paths with men like him. They settled at a small table by the window, Emma chattering happily about her ballet class, while while systematically demolishing her sherbet. Parker noticed how attentively Penelope listened, asking questions that delighted his daughter. "What do you do, Penelope?" he finally asked. She hesitated briefly. "I work in business development, consulting mostly. Sounds important." "Not as important as construction," she replied, nodding at his hands. "You build things that last." Parker smiled, surprised by her response. "How did you know I'm in construction?" "Your hands," she said simply. "They tell stories." Emma interrupted with a sherbet-covered grin. "Daddy's building the big towers downtown. He goes super high up." "The Westridge project?" Penelope asked, her expression unreadable. Parker nodded. "Just framing work, but it's steady for now." Penelope seemed to consider something before asking, "Do you like it? Construction, I mean." "I like creating something from nothing," he answered honestly. "Seeing progress at the end of each day, but what I'd really like is to have my own small business someday, maybe carpentry or custom furniture." "You're good with your hands," Penelope observed. Parker felt heat rise to his cheeks. "I dabble," made Emma's bed frame and dresser. "He makes beautiful things," Emma chimed in loyally. "Show her the pictures, Daddy." Embarrassed but proud, Parker pulled out his phone and showed Penelope photos of pieces he'd crafted in the small workshop. He rented on weekends a delicate bookshelf with carved details, a rocking chair with fluid lines. "These are extraordinary," Penelope said, her voice sincere. "You have real talent." Before Parker could respond, his phone rang, his second job calling. He excused himself to answer, and when he returned, his expression was apologetic. "I have to fill in at my night job," he explained. "Someone called out sick." "You have 2 jobs?" Penelope asked. "Sometimes 3, Parker admitted. "Whatever it takes, you know." Something shifted in Penelope's expression. "Respect, perhaps." "I understand completely." As they prepared to leave, Penelope hesitated. "Could I get your number, in case I want to commission some furniture?" Parker was stunned but quickly recovered. "Sure, though I warn you I'm not cheap. Quality takes time." She smiled at that. "I wouldn't expect anything less." They exchanged numbers, and Parker felt a strange sense of possibility as he and Emma said goodbye. He didn't expect her to call, but the fact that she might was enough to brighten his exhausting day. That night, after dropping Emma at his neighbor Mrs. Wilson's apartment and working his shift as a night security guard, Parker couldn't stop thinking about Penelope Richmond. There had been something about her, a genuineness beneath her polished exterior that intrigued him. 3 days later, he was surprised when she texted, interested in discussing a coffee table commission. Coffee first to discuss details. They arranged to meet Saturday morning at a cafe while Emma was at her weekend art class. Parker arrived early, nervous in a way he hadn't been in years. He'd worn his newest jeans and a clean button-down shirt, feeling simultaneously overdressed and underdressed. Penelope arrived precisely on time, looking casual but elegant in jeans and a simple blouse. Her copper hair fell loose around her shoulders today, and Parker was struck again by how beautiful she was. "You look nice," she said, settling across from him. "I clean up okay when I'm not covered in sawdust or drywall," he joked. Their conversation flowed easily as they discussed her furniture needs a coffee table for her home office, she explained. But as they talked, the discussion drifted from wood types and finishes to personal topics. "How did you get into carpentry?" she asked. "My grandfather. He taught me everything before he passed. When I was 16, we built a cabin together up in the mountains. Nothing fancy, but it's still standing." "That sounds incredible," she said, "having something that connects you to him." "What about your family?" Parker asked. A flicker of something sadness crossed her face. "My parents died when I was in college, car accident. I'm an only child, so it's just me now." "I'm sorry," he said, meaning it. He understood loneliness. "It taught me to value what matters," she replied. "Speaking of which, tell me more about Emma." Parker's face lit up as he talked about his daughter, her creativity, her determination, her kindness. "She's everything to me," he said simply. "It shows," Penelope smiled. "She's lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one." When they parted ways, Penelope had commissioned not just a coffee table, but also a bookshelf. The price they agreed upon was fair but generous enough that Parker could reduce his hours at the night job for a few weeks. What Parker didn't expect was for their professional relationship to evolve. After delivering the coffee table, which Penelope had praised enthusiastically, she invited him and Emma to dinner as a thank you. That dinner led to another, then to a day at the Children's Museum, where Penelope seemed as delighted by the exhibits as Emma was. Parker found himself looking forward to their time together, even as he wondered what someone like Penelope could possibly see in him. One evening, after Emma had fallen asleep during a movie at Penelope's apartment, Parker helped carry her to the guest room that had somehow accumulated several of Emma's belongings over their visits. "You have a beautiful home," Parker commented, looking around at the spacious apartment with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It was elegant but comfortable, much like Penelope herself. "It's just a place," she said, returning with 2 glasses of wine. "It doesn't feel like a home often enough." They sat on her balcony, the city lights twinkling below. Parker sensed there was more to her story than she'd shared, but he didn't press. Everyone had their secrets, their wounds. "Can I ask you something personal?" Penelope finally said. Parker nodded, taking a sip of wine. "Why did you help me that day? You had your daughter with you. Most people would have kept walking." He considered her questions seriously. "Because it was right, and because I want Emma to see that standing up for others isn't optional, it's necessary." He paused. "My father wasn't a good man. He taught me what not to be. Every day I try to be the opposite of him for Emma." Penelope's hand found his in the darkness. "You're succeeding." Something changed between them that night, a shift from friendship to something deeper. When Parker leaned in to kiss her, Penelope met him halfway, her lips soft against his. Their relationship deepened over the following weeks. Parker introduced Penelope to simple pleasures, farmers markets on Sunday mornings, picnics in the park, teaching Emma to fly a kite. In turn, Penelope brought them to art exhibitions, symphony performances adapted for children, and restaurants Parker would never have entered on his own. What impressed Parker most was how Penelope treated Emma with respect and genuine interest, never talking down to her. For her part, Emma adored Miss Penny, especially when she helped with ballet positions or art projects. Yet Parker couldn't shake the feeling that Penelope was holding something back. Sometimes she'd receive calls that she'd taken another room or have to cancel plans last minute for work emergencies. Her apartment, while beautiful, contained few personal touches, no family photos, no mementos. "You don't talk much about your work," he mentioned one evening as they prepared dinner together in his small kitchen. Penelope focused on chopping vegetables. "It's not very interesting." "I find that hard to believe," Parker said gently. "You're one of the most interesting people I know." She looked up, her expression vulnerable. "I'm afraid it might change things between us." "Nothing could change how I feel about you," he assured her, though uncertainty flickered in his chest. What could be so significant? The truth emerged unexpectedly 2 months into their relationship. Parker was working on the Westridge project when the site received a visit from the investors. He was 50 stories up, securing a beam, when he heard a familiar voice. Looking down, he saw Penelope surrounded by suits, gesturing at blueprints. During lunch break, he approached the site office, confused. Penelope saw him through the glass walls, her expression freezing momentarily before she excused herself from the meeting. "Parker," she said, meeting him outside, "I can explain. You work for the developers." He asked, trying to understand. She took a deep breath. "Not exactly. I am the developer. Richmond Enterprises, that's my company. I own it." Parker stared at her, pieces falling into place, her knowledge of the project, her expensive but understated clothes, the apartment with its perfect view. "You're not just a consultant," he said slowly. "You're the CEO and majority shareholder." "Yes," she admitted. "My parents built the company and I took over after they died, the Richmond Enterprises." Parker felt the ground shift beneath him. Richmond Enterprises was a billion-dollar corporation with projects across the country. "Why didn't you tell me?" "At first, I just enjoyed being seen as me, not as my net worth," she explained. "And then, the longer I waited, the harder it became to find the right moment." Her eyes pleaded with him. "Nothing else was a lie, Parker. How I feel about you and Emma, that's the most honest thing in my life." Parker needed time to process this revelation. He wasn't angry that she was wealthy, that was her business, but the omission felt significant. He took a step back. I need to think, he said quietly. I understand, she replied, pain evident in her voice. Just please believe that I never meant to deceive you. For a week, Parker kept his distance, declining Penelope's calls while he sorted through his feelings. Emma asked about Miss Penny daily, her confusion adding to his turmoil. It was Emma who ultimately provided clarity. As Parker tucked her in one night, she asked, "Are you mad at Miss Penny because she has a big company?" "It's complicated, sweetheart," he tried to explain. Emma frowned thoughtfully. "When I didn't tell you I broke your special mug, you were sad because I didn't tell the truth, but you still loved me." From the mouths of babes, Parker thought. "You're right, Em, sometimes grown-ups make mistakes too." "I miss her," Emma said simply. "She makes you smile." The next day, Parker called Penelope and asked to meet. They chose a neutral location, the park where they'd flown kites with Emma. When Penelope arrived, Parker could see she'd been struggling too. Her eyes held the same tiredness he felt. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "I should have told you sooner." "Yes, you should have," Parker agreed, "but I understand why it was difficult." He took a deep breath. "What I need to know is, are there any other significant things I should know about you?" Penelope shook her head. "My company, my wealth, that's the big one. Everything else, how I feel about you, who I am when I'm with you and Emma, that's all real." She looked at him earnestly. "The woman you defended outside that grocery store, the one who prefers vanilla ice cream and loves watching Emma dance, that's the real me." Parker believed her. "I'm not going to pretend the money thing isn't intimidating," he admitted. "I've worked hard all my life just to provide the basics. The idea that you could buy my apartment building without blinking is a lot to process." "Money doesn't define compatibility," Penelope said. "What matters is shared values, mutual respect, making each other better." She hesitated. "These past months with you and Emma have been the happiest of my adult life. Before you, I had success but not joy." Parker considered her words. "Emma misses you, I miss you too." Relief washed over Penelope's face. "I've missed you both so much." They agreed to move forward honestly, taking things one day at a time. Their reconciliation brought a new level of openness to their relationship. Penelope shared more about her company and the pressures she faced. Parker expressed his insecurities about their different backgrounds. Rather than highlighting their differences, this honesty revealed how similar their core values were. Both valued hard work, integrity, and putting family first. Both had experienced loneliness and found in each other a sense of belonging. As they rebuilt trust, Penelope made a proposition that surprised Parker. Her company was launching a custom furniture division focusing on sustainable, artisan-crafted pieces. She wanted Parker to lead it. "Not because we're together," she emphasized, "but because you're talented and have a vision I believe in. The company would provide funding, space, and marketing. You'd have creative control." Parker was hesitant at first, fearing it might appear he was taking advantage of their relationship. But after consulting with trusted friends and seeing the business plan, he recognized it as a legitimate opportunity, one he'd earned through his craftsmanship. 6 months after they'd first met outside Miller's grocery, Parker's workshop was thriving. He'd hired 2 apprentices and was teaching weekend classes to at-risk youth. His furniture was gaining recognition, and he'd cut back on construction work to focus on his passion. Penelope had found balance too, delegating more at work to spend evenings and weekends with Parker and Emma. She'd converted a room in her apartment into a dance studio for Emma's practice and a corner for Parker's design sketches. One Sunday morning, as they prepared breakfast together in Penelope's kitchen, now their kitchen, since Parker and Emma had moved in the previous month, Parker watched Penelope helping Emma decorate pancakes with fruit faces. "What?" Penelope asked, catching his gaze. "I'm just thinking about how differently this could have gone," he said, "if I hadn't stopped to help you that day." "I think about that all the time," she admitted. "Before you, I was surrounded by people but completely alone. Everyone wanted something from me except you. You just wanted to help." Emma looked up from her pancake creation. "Daddy always helps people. That's his superpower." Penelope smiled. "One of many." Later that day, while Emma was at a playdate, Parker took Penelope to his old neighborhood. He showed her the small apartment where he'd raised Emma, the park where he'd taught her to walk, the community center where he'd taken extra jobs to make ends meet. "This is part of who I am," he explained. "Even if we live differently now." Penelope squeezed his hand. "It's part of why I love you. You built a beautiful life for Emma with limited resources. Imagine what you'll build now." That evening, after Emma was asleep, Parker led Penelope to the balcony where they'd shared their first kiss. He decorated it with string lights and the flowers she loved. "What's all this?" she asked, smiling. Parker took her hands in his. "8 months ago, I stepped between you and some troublemakers because it was the right thing to do. I had no idea that decision would change my life." He knelt, pulling a small box from his pocket. "You've shown me that sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected places." Inside the box was a ring he'd designed himself, a band of polished wood inlaid with gold, and a modest but perfect diamond. "I made this from the same wood as the first piece I created for you." Tears filled Penelope's eyes as Parker continued. "I love you not for what you have, but for who you are, your kindness, your integrity, your heart. Will you marry me?" "Yes," she whispered, pulling him to his feet and into her arms. 1,000 times yes. Their wedding, 6 months later, reflected their blended lives, elegant but unpretentious, with Emma as flower girl. Parker's carpentry students crafted the arch they stood beneath, and Penelope's executive assistant played violin as she walked down the aisle. In their vows, Penelope thanked Parker for defending her when she was vulnerable and for teaching her the difference between success and fulfillment. Parker thanked Penelope for seeing value in his work and helping him build a legacy for Emma. 2 years after their chance meeting, their family expanded with the birth of their son, Noah. Emma, now 9, took her role as big sister seriously, reading to her brother from her favorite books and showing him her ballet trophies. Parker's furniture line had expanded nationally, with a percentage of profits supporting trade education for single parents. Penelope had restructured her company to prioritize sustainable development and family-friendly employment policies, inspired by Parker's experiences. Their home, a renovated farmhouse outside the city with a massive workshop and dance studio, became a gathering place for friends and family. The dining table, one of Parker's finest creations, had witnessed countless celebrations, deep conversations, and everyday moments of connection. On the 5th anniversary of the day they met, Parker and Penelope returned to Miller's grocery with Emma and Noah. Standing on the same spot where they'd first encountered each other, Penelope looked at her husband with the same admiration she'd felt watching him stand up for a stranger. "Best decision I ever made," Parker said, squeezing her hand. "Getting involved in someone else's trouble," Penelope teased. Parker smiled, watching Emma show her little brother how to spin like a ballerina on the sidewalk. "Showing our daughter that sometimes the most important moments of your life begin with a simple act of kindness. And sometimes," Penelope added, resting her head on his shoulder, "a billionaire falls in love with the hero she wasn't looking for." They bought ice cream cones vanilla for both of them and walked home together, their unexpected family complete, their different worlds now one.